breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
The warmer for the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. We've got an excellent podcast for you. We're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Dylan Rockford, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, looking at this great game of baseball. We're going to chat with him about what we've all seen here in the first week and a half of the season, a few players and teams that he's a little bit bullish/bearish on. Additionally, we're going to be taking a look at a lot of the games that we've got for Tuesday, and then in the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at Jude_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you are able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, but we had a fun day of baseball on Monday. Let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
We actually had a day game on Monday with the Rays getting the job done over the Chicago Cubs. This by kind of 6-4. Shane McClanahan, not necessarily the longest start here, 4 innings, gives up 2 runs. He's still trying to ease his way after missing the last few seasons, and for Jameson Taillon, he was able to fill 6 innings, but gives up a pair of bombs, 4 runs, 3 of which were earned in total, as Cedric Mullins takes him deep, first home run of the campaign, and then Junior Caminero, home run number 2 of the campaign. Jonathan Aranda, he gets a third home run of the campaign that comes off of Phil Matone, who gives up 2 runs in his inning of work, and then you were able to get a scoreless inning from there out of Riley Martinez's MLB debut, and for the Rays, bullpen was able to do their part. You did have Ian Seymour give up a run in 1 1/3 innings, and Brian Baker does give up a home run to Matt Shaw, his second of the campaign, but Hunter Biggie comes up Biggie, 5 outs of the bullpen squirrels. Kevin Kelly was able to supply a scoreless inning as well. Lots of scoreless innings supplied by the Reds, 2-0. They blanked the Miami Marlins as Brandon Williamson, 6 2/3 innings scoreless. He looked rock solid, and Jansen Jung did not live up to his name. Pretty solid, 7 1/3 innings, gives up a pair of runs, including a home run to Tyler Stevenson, second home run on the campaign. From there, you did have a scoreless outing from Tyler Phillips, gets 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, but for the Reds, their bullpen was rock solid. Tony Santin, Emilio Pagan, both give you a scoreless inning. Brock and Rolberg, he's able to get it out of the bullpen scoreless to be able to get the job done out there. Also being able to get the job done, the Royals, 4-2. They take down the Cleveland Guardians as Tanner Bybee allows 1 run, but only went 4 2/3 innings. From there, Tim Aaron out of the bullpen squirrels. Peyton Palante gives up a solo home run, as that was to Mr. Carter Jensen, who did not oversleep for this game. Second home run of the campaign. Colby Allard from there, he gives up 2 runs in 2 innings, including a home run to Jonathan India, second of the campaign, and Michael Wacha. Nice start here. He does give up a solo home run to Stephen Kwan, first of the campaign, but that's all that he give up in 7 innings. Matt Strom from there gives up a home run to Brian Rocchio, first of the campaign, gives up 1 run in his inning, but Lucas Hursadge scoreless inning to be able to get the job done there for the San Diego Padres. They slammed the door shut on the Pittsburgh Pirates, 5-0 the final in this one, as Bubba Chandler, he goes out there for 4 1/3 innings, gives up 3 runs, all of which were earned, and from there you had You Don't Mess with Yohan Ramirez getting messed with, 1 run allowed in 1 2/3 innings. Isaac Madsen, Gregory Soto led his scoreless inning, and Justin Lawrence, he goes for an inning, he gives up a run, but for the Pirates, just 1 of 10 with men in scoring position. Otabana Marquez gives up 6 hits in 5 innings, but no runs. From there, Ron Marinaccio, 2 scoreless innings. David Morgan, 2 scoreless innings, and the St. Louis Cardinals bullpen continues to be pretty awful. 9-6, the Washington Nationals get the job down here as Andre 3000 Palate, honestly not a bad start here for the Cardinals. Gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings. Justin Brule from there gets a pair of outs, gives up a run along the way. Jojo Romero, 8 scoreless inning, and then for the Washington Nationals, they put up a 6 spot in the 8th inning. They get 3 home runs. Ryan Stanek comes in for 2/3 of an inning. He gives up 3 runs. Matt Savanson, he gives up 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning, as Savanson gives up 2 out of those 3 home runs. Going deep, CJ Abrams, 4th home run season. Brady House, 2nd home run of the campaign, and James Wood with Goodwood for his 3rd home run of the season. Zach Littell, pretty solid start here for the Nationals, 1 run allowed in 5 innings. Their bullpen was not great either. Ken Waldichuk gives up a pair of home runs. Ramon Urias, his 2nd home run of the campaign, and Jordan Walker, his 3rd. He gives up 3 runs in 2 1/3 innings. Andre Granillo gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning, but Ciano Perez, a scoreless inning to be able to get the job done out there. Also being able to get the job done was the Milwaukee Brewers. They get an 8-5 win over the Boston Red Sox. For Boston, you had Brian Bayo give up 4 runs, 3 of which were earned in 3 1/3 innings. just not what he was looking for here. And for the Brewers, they go 4 of 18 with men in scoring position in this game. Brandon Woodruff, 5 2/3 innings, does allow 5 runs, 3 of which were earned, but the bullpen at his back. Aaron Ashby, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Grant Anderson, a scoreless inning on El Zerpa. He was able to turn a nice, clean 9th inning. And for the Red Sox, bullpen had their issues. Danny Kaluma, a pair of outside the bullpen scores. Giovanni Morin does provide 3 innings of relief, gives up just 1 run along the way, but Garrett Woodlock, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned, give it up in his inning of work, and then you had a run given up in an inning as well by Ryan Watson. Lots and lots of issues for the Toronto Blue Jays. This was not pretty as the Dodgers put up a 14 spot, 14-2. They're able to get the job done, and the only reason why it was 2 is because they had Miguel Vargas pitch in the 9th inning, and he allowed a run, or else it would have been even more out of hand, as Max Scherzer, he only goes for 2 innings in this game. He gives up a pair of runs, including home run to Oscar Hernandez, second home run in the campaign, and then Josh Fleming, he gives up 4 runs over the course of 3 innings, including home run to Freddie Freeman. That was his 3rd home run in the campaign. Joe Mantiply, he gives up a home run, 3 runs in total in 2/3 of an inning, as he gives one up to Shohei Ohtani, 3rd home run season. Then Dalton Rushing, pair of home runs, his 2nd and 3rd of the campaign, so he's rushing to be able to get his home run count up as he goes deep off of Tommy Nance. 4 runs allowed in 1 1/3 inning. Spencer Miles gives up the other one, giving up a home run in an inning. Tyler Heineman scoreless inning, and Justin Robelski for the Dodgers, rock solid performance here. 1 run allowed in 5 innings. Will Klein, 2 innings scoreless out of the bullpen. Edgardo Enriquez gives you a scoreless inning, and then, as I mentioned, Miguel Rojas, he gives up a run in an inning when this game was very, very much out of hand. For the Colorado Rockies, they were able to get things out of hand in the 5th inning as they put up an 8 spot in that 5th inning to get the job done 9-7 over the Houston Astros. Cody Bolton gives up 2 runs in 4 1/3 innings in a surprise start for him, and then, well, this was not wise as they brought in Ryan Wise. He gave up 7 runs, 6 of which were earned in 2 2/3 innings, including a home run, as it was home run number 2 of the campaign for the young gun outfielder in Troy Johnston. From there, you did have a inning scoreless from Aniel de los Santos, and for the Rockies, Ryan Feltner does give up 4 runs in 5 1/3 innings, including a home run to Cam Smith, 3rd home run of the season. Jimmy Erged gives up a run in 1 2/3 innings. Zach Ognos, pair of runs allowed in his 3rd of an inning, but Juan Mejia, 5-out save. He was able to go 5-out scoreless to be able to get the job done for the Rockies, who are a respectable 4-6 right now. Angels looking pretty respectable as well at 6-5. They take down the Atlanta Braves 6-2. Chris Sale sold in this game. He gives up 6 runs in 4 innings, including a pair of bombs. Joe Adele sets fire to the rain, first home run of the campaign. Zach Neto, his 4th, and Adele's already round 3 home runs, so he's got a lot of home runs to his credit. And Jose Soriano, how about 1 sole home run allowed in 8 innings? That was to Drake Baldwin, 5th home run in the campaign. Mauricio Dubon from there does go deep off of Chase Silseth, his 2nd home run in the campaign. Silseth, he gives up that home run in 2/3 of an inning, and then Jordan Romano is able to come in for the final out to be able to get the save. Yo Piamps, a scoreless inning for the Braves. Oswaldo Vito, 2 scoreless innings. Aaron Bummer, a scoreless inning, but the big bummer was the fact that Chris Sale, well, he did not get the job done here, but you did have the Minnesota Twins get the job done 7-3. They take down the Detroit Tigers. Casey Mize, 5 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings, including a home run to Luke Cashel, who was able to get his first home run in the campaign. From there, Bryant Herter gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning. Drew Anderson, he gives up a run. He was able to go for 3 innings, so relatively solid there. And then for Joe Ryan, not necessarily his sharpest start, 3 runs, 2 of which weren't given up in 5 innings, but Anthony Banda, scoreless inning. Eric Gorze, Cody Fenderberg, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, and you had 5 outside the bullpen scoreless from Cody Lawyerson to be able to get his first save of the season. As for the Tigers, just 2 of 10 with men in scoring position, down to 4-6 to begin the season. And for the Baltimore Orioles, they do find a way to get the job done 2-1 the final, as they were able to get a very nice surprise start here from Brandon Young. 5 scoreless innings. From there, Tyler Wells pitches Wells for 2 scoreless innings. Rico Garcia is scoreless inning, and Ryan Helsley got into a little bit of a sticky situation, gives up a run in the 9th, but the Orioles still find a way to persevere as the White Sox just 1 of 9 with men in scoring position in this one. Grant Taylor serves as the opener, and I think he's made like 4 starts already for the Chicago White Sox. Scoreless inning out of him. Eric Fetty Wap, not bad as a bulk guy. 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings, does give up home run to Gunnar Henderson, 3rd home run of the campaign, and then Lucas Sims, 2 scoreless innings, but for the White Sox, not a lot doing at the plate, not a lot doing for the Mariners or the Rangers. Rangers get a 2-1 win as they got a nice start out of one Mr. Jacob deGrom. Does give up a sole run to Cal Raleigh, first of the campaign for Raleigh, so he's trying to get back on track from a season ago, but bullpen was great. Jalen Beeks, Robert Garcia, Jacob Junis all led a scoreless inning. Tyler Alexander, Cole Winn combined for a scoreless inning, and Logan Gilbert did his part. 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. From there, Jose Ferrer, Cooper Criswell, they both led a scoreless inning, but the Rangers, they do find a way to be be able to persevere. They got some good pitching to be able to get the job done out there. And then in the late action, I do have to have this up by midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern, and currently we've got ourselves one game that is live, the Phillies versus the San Francisco Giants, and this Giants bullpen not looking that great. 6-4 currently the Phillies lead, as Andrew Painter did give up 4 runs over the course of 4 innings, and he did give up a nice triple to Matt Chapman, who's been having himself a rough go of it. But from there, you've had Jose Alvarado, Jonathan Bullen, Tim Mesa, all in a scoreless setting, and Adrian Hauser was rocking and rolling, but then the Phillies put up a 4 spot in the 7th inning. They left him out there too long. He gives up 4 runs over the course of 6 innings. Ryan Baruchi from there can't hold on, inherited runners, so he gives up 2 runs in a third of an inning. Caleb Killian, a pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, and Matt Gage currently on to try to hold down the fort, as the Phillies have went through 7 innings, 3 of 15 with men in scoring position. So they certainly have had their scoring opportunities, and if you're taking a look at what we're all getting in Major League Baseball right now, this is with the Phillies versus the Giants game pending, as that is still hanging in the balance. But overall for the season, we are starting to see some overs come in. 75 overs is 69 under, so that's a 52.1% array to the over, and that game is going to go over, so that'll make it 76 overs. And for favorites on the money line, they've been having themselves a so-so start to the season. It was very good in the first week and a half, down to about 81.64 on the money line, so that is 55.9%. And if you do take a look at the last 7 days in baseball, to my point, favorites just 45 and 38 on the money line, and in that time span, 48 overs at 35 under. So that's where we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's where we're all getting trend-wise. Coming next, how about if we do chat it up with our good friend Dylan Rockford, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, right here on the Baseball Betting Show, with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beeson Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Beeson Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Dylan Rockford aboard. He does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. Does a great job on the fight front with Axe Kicks Picks. I know he does a little bit of everything from football to baseball, fights, list goes on and on. You're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at Rock with 2Ks24 all together. And Dylan, it's always great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. I know it's baseball season when it's time to talk to you. How you doing? And we had some day baseball today as well.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to have day baseball the next few days. Thank you to the New York Mets for that, as apparently it's a little bit cold out there in the northeast part of the country, and trust me, not too many of us are complaining about having that day baseball. And how have you taken a look at the first 2 weeks of the season? Because obviously you don't want to overreact to some things, but I do think that we have found out a few things, like the fact that the Rays bullpen isn't quite what we were expecting, to say the least. But just what do you make on the first 2 weeks? Because I do think that there can be some takeaways, but at the same time, probably don't want to be going full bore into making too big of sweeping assumptions at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head. Rays ERA for their bullpen, 7.98, almost an 8. I did not see that. That was not on my bingo card. And enough, they're still second in the East. In the AL, I mean, I did not expect Boston. Their offense they've been MIA the first week and a half of the season. It was surprisingly to see how hot and cold the offense for the Seattle Mariners have been. Cleveland, the AL Central, it's going to be, in my opinion, I feel like a 2-team race with the Royals and the Tigers. I think Tigers' offenses will get going. Bullpen for the Yankees, I mean, offensively, they've been really good. Pitching has been fantastic as well. Dodgers, we know they've been really good, but it hasn't even been really, who we think: Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts. But Andy Pages, I mean, he's been the best hitter for the team so far as well. So that was good to see. Milwaukee's been really good as well. Mets, finally, they're hitting starting to come about. We got Juan Soto on the 10-day DL right now, but honestly, they've been really good. Bo Bichette, he's starting to come around. Luis Robert Jr., I mean, he's been phenomenal for the Mets as well. And Atlanta Braves, their ERA has been really good. One of the lowest in the MLB for starting pitchers as well. So, yeah, those are a few of my takeaways so far.
Yep, they certainly have been doing a nice job in terms of getting things going, and there certainly have been ups and downs. And I mentioned this on the podcast yesterday. I want to mention this to you as well. How much do you feel like there might be a divide this year between the National League and the American League? Because it just feels like a lot of the American League teams, sans the New York Yankees, are lagging behind the top National League teams right now.
Oh, 100%. I mean, outside of the Yankees, 7-2, everyone is probably around a 500 team. Yeah, it's early, but Cleveland 6-4, Houston 6-4, and I just think some of the teams out of the gate who I think we expect to make a deep run, maybe come September, October, just not starting off as hot as we thought. Seattle, Detroit. I know a lot of people picked Boston to win the AL East. Toronto, who was just in the World Series. They've lost 4 in a row. They just got swept. So, yeah, a lot of teams have been lagging behind the 8 ball right now outside of the New York Yankees. And I think the NL, outside of the Dodgers 7-2 and Milwaukee 7-2, surprisingly, the Fish. I know they played the Rockies and the White Sox to start the season, but regardless, I think the Fish have been pretty good. I know they got beat up over the weekend by the Yankees, but I think they're going to be a feisty team, especially at home this season, the Fish.
Yep, I certainly do think so as well. As joining me on the show, we do have Dylan Rockford, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And what do you make out of the fact that the Philadelphia Phillies have had a little bit of an up-and-down season, as well as they're going to be taking on the San Francisco Giants on Tuesday with their ace Christopher Sanchez on the mound? And I mean, he's looked good thus far, but with the Philadelphia Phillies, it's been interesting to watch them just be very, shall we say, inconsistent at the plate thus far.
Oh, yeah, they've been really inconsistent, hot and cold. Really don't trust their bullpen either, if I'm being honest. They're almost at a 5 early to start the season. They've just been hot and cold. I have liked what I've seen from Kyle Schwarber here lately. He's been hitting the ball, but offensively, I really don't trust them. Their run differential is really not good. They're just like a 500 club, even at home, where, you know, the crowd's supposed to give them that home field advantage. They're just 3-3 to start the year. Yes, very small sample size. We're not going to overreact, but I am worried. And that was kind of my handicap coming into the season. This team, a lot of their guys are on the wrong side of 30. I think their window is kind of closed.
Yep, I do think so as well. They're a little bit of an aging team. They're going to need some of the young guns like Crawford out there in the outfield to be able to step it up for them a little bit. And I know you're a man that is out there in the great state of New York, and the Mets, I mentioned, they are going to be playing a day game on Tuesday. And just what have you made out of their start to the season? Because no longer do they have Pete Alonso and Edwin Diaz, a little bit of a revamped team, and they're going to have Freddie Peralta they picked up in the offseason going on Tuesday. But I feel like it's been interesting to watch them because they had that rough series against Cardinals, but bounced back in a nice way against a Giants team that is looking like they might be a disappointment in the National League this year.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought the team leader in OPS, Mark Vientos? I mean, not me. I don't think a lot of people would think that, especially with the additions that we made. I think defensively, I think we're better. It's going to still take some time. I think Bo Bichette has made some questionable throws from third base, but, you know, Devin Williams is having a rebound season after coming over from the Bronx. I think Luke Weaver, he's yet to allow a run as well. Tobias Myers, he's looked good in multi-innings as well. So I've liked what I've seen, especially from the reliever side for the Mets. I think the Mets bullpen right now ranks second in the league, right outside of the Atlanta Braves. So I like what I've seen from the starting pitching. Kodai Senga's looked good. For Tuesday, though, yeah, you mentioned Freddie Peralta going against Zach Gallen. I didn't come down on a side just because I think the Mets are a little bit juiced here. I kind of like the over 7. My total came out to a flat 8. Like I said a little earlier, the Mets offense really started to turn around over the weekend. 24 runs in the last 3 games. And the last time Zach Gallen was on the mound, he got smoked by the Dodgers. And not to mention, we mentioned earlier in the episode about how bad the Tampa Bay Rays bullpen is. Not so far below them are the Arizona Diamondbacks as well. They're not a good bullpen as well. And as much as I like Freddie Peralta, last time he was at home, the Pirates did muster up a few runs here. So watch out. Pirates are on a 5-game winning streak. But I just think Arizona could score. I think Mets will be able to score some runs here. So I know it's going to be a cold day, but even money I'm seeing, I'll take the 7 over.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I feel like that's too low with Zach Gallen having his issues. And I feel like Freddie Peralta is doing for a little bit of regression from last year as well. The fielding independent, the ERA did not match up. So I'm right there with you as we do have our good friend Dylan Rockford, who does great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And certainly I do think that is going to be a very interesting game to take a look at. What do we make of the Red Sox, who they started off winning 2 of their first 9 games. They do have Garrett Crochet on the mound on Tuesday. Going to be going up against the Miz, Jacob Mizorowski of the Brewers, but I mean, it's been fascinating to watch this team, and you don't want to hit the panic button too early, but something does not look right out there with the dirty water in Boston.
No, not at all. And on paper, it is a good matchup, but the Red Sox offense has scored the fewest runs in the American League, 30. And, Caleb Duran, Trevor Story, they rank bottom 3 among all qualified hitters in WRC plus. And, I know they traded for Sonny Gray, Ranger Suarez. They signed him to $130 million, but their starters have the 4th highest ERA in the MLB at, I think it's around a 5.19. So, yeah, not the best start for my friends up there in New England, but I can't get back here. Even with Crochet on the mound, I can't back them. I only made him a minus 135 favorite, honestly. So it's in either a dog or a pass, but another total. I think 7, even 7.5. Total seems a little low. My total came out to 8.5. Crochet did not look good in his last start versus the Brewers offense. And, Brewers, they're averaging around 5.5 runs per game their last 5. And I do think coming back home, I think the Red Sox will be able to score a few runs of their own. So, yeah, another high-scoring game here. I probably would take the over.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, especially with Mizorowski and the fact that he can knock himself out of starts very early as well with his walks issues. So I'm in agreement with you there. And how have you been taking a look at totals begin the season? Because I thought that the first few days of the season, we got some good value on unders. It feels like these totals are a little bit too low. Recognize that it's a little bit colder out there in the Northeast and Midwest part of the country, but I'm seeing a lot of 6.5, 7s, a few straight 7.5s on the board for Tuesday. And I feel like this is a little bit of an overreaction, and I'm finding myself liking a lot of overs for Tuesday.
I was just in agreement, and I'm an under better at heart. I like to bet the under because I do think there's more value in the under, but I'm here in the Northeast, and it is frigid here out to 6 days into April, but I would agree. I like betting unders, but I was going through the card, and my model, I came out with a lot of overs, unfortunately. Like, the only under I feel like I'm really like is the A's and the Yankees. 8.5.
Yeah, that's what I like too.
It's insane. 8.5 with Cam Shetler and Aaron Savali, who he hasn't allowed a run all season. Bullpen's been really good. I'm surprised the number came out at 8.5, and maybe Aaron Savali's due for some regression, but he wasn't terrible either in his first start. So I don't know. I don't trust the A's on the road offensively. I kind of lean under there. The Twins and Tigers, I get, it's Tarek Skubal. What more needs to be said? But don't look now. Taj Bradley, he's been pretty good too. He's only given up 1 run in 2 starts. 6.5, 7 seems kind of crazy. Even my number came out to a 7.3. So I probably wouldn't touch the game, but if you need a pick, I probably would take the over. Even the Orioles and the White Sox, that number came out at like an 8.4 for me, and I'm seeing it at a 7, even 7.5. I probably would lean over here. So we saw how bad Shane Smith was, and then when he's out of the game in 3-4 innings, the White Sox bullpen will just let up a ton of runs as well. I'm surprised with how bad the bullpens have been about a week and a half in. I'm surprised at how low the totals have come. So, yeah, I would agree. Long-winded answer. I'm sorry, but I would agree. Probably an overreaction.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And you said it so well. These bullpens have not been great, to say the least, for so many teams. We highlighted the Tampa Bay Rays at the start, and you're able to go down the list. The Chicago White Sox, who you just mentioned there, they are absolutely brutal in that bullpen as well. So, in agreement there. And is there anything else that is going to be catching your eye for Tuesday that you're going to be looking to bet?
Yeah, so, well, I mentioned a lot of my totals were the plays, but I kind of will go up in the beginning of the card with the Royals and Guardians. Surprised that I saw a pick 'em. My line came out to a minus 135 for the Guardians. Now, it's not the biggest play, but I'm just going to fade Noah Cameron here on the road. I think Gavin Williams has been great so far. This is his first start at home this season, but he's only given up 3 runs in 12 innings. Walks can be an issue for him, but home is where you want to back him. He was great at home last season for the Guardians. 7-2. He had a 3 ERA. And I'm a big fan of Noah Cameron, but I want to back him at home, not on the road. I don't trust their bullpen. So, yeah, I like the Guardians here. And I mentioned it a little earlier ago against the Buccos. 5 in a row now for them. They got Paul Skeens on the mound against Nick Pivetta. Minus 134, minus 133 is what I'm seeing right now. Line could change, but I'm probably going to take the Pirates here at home. Offense is looking better. Starting pitching has been good. Bullpen hasn't been bad either. I like Paul Skeens. He bounced back after that debacle against the Mets, came back. Now, he wasn't himself, but he was still much better. I'm not bought into this Padres offense at all. Yeah, they had a decent series against Boston. I just don't trust their offense, and I just think this is a bad spot for them. So, yeah, I'm going to be on the Pirates here on the money line.
Yep, I like that play as well. I do think that Paul Skeens, which is very much the, shall we say, deficitary of O'Neal Cruz playing some Little League outfield in that first start of the season, and now he's been able to bounce back. And we always bounce back when you're aboard, my friend. Dylan, you're doing such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. You do amazing work on the baseball front and so much more, so let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter or X, whatever you guys call it these days, at Rock with 2Ks 24. I'm on the MLB Gambling Podcast almost every day. We break down every game on the board, except on Saturday. We got to take a day off. But outside of that, you can catch me on SGPN. It's UFC 327 this weekend in Miami, so it's a huge card down there in the 305. But Greg, as you know, the grind never stops.
Absolutely, it does not, and that's why we love our good friend Dylan. He does such a great job looking at this great game of baseball day in and day out, and every single time he joins me on such great insights. So, big thanks to Dylan for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the Beast and Family Podcast. That means next it is that time to podcast. They give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Dylan Rockford, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, looking at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and did so once again today. So a big thanks to Dylan for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_D1. We are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any intra-league games, those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So let's get things started with 901, 902 on the card. The Marlins are playing goes to the Cincinnati Reds. And yes, we're on to Cincinnati. It's on to Andrew Abbott getting the start for them. And Sandy Alcantara goes for the Miami Marlins. Marlins between minus 122 to minus 131 favorites. And between plus 104 to plus 110. That number on Cincinnati, 7 to 7.5 is the total. On the 7.5. The under is minus 125. Over is plus 105 on the 7. Over is minus 115. Under is minus 105. Semi-total at a 7.2. Personally, I would rather go with a 7.5 to the under rather than a 7 to the over, but there's just not a lot of 7.5s out there. If I absolutely had to play right now, I'd be looking at the 7 over just because the under juice is just so big. But that said, I'll be waiting on the AM, and hopefully we can get some more 7.5s. But that said, for Sandy Alcantara, he has been absolutely tremendous. 16 shutout innings to begin the season. Obviously, last year was a little bit rough, but you go back to what he did during the 2025 campaign, and he was just very unlucky. His fielding independent was darn near a point lower than his ERA. He was supplying that rough 5.36 ERA, but a 4.20 fielding independent. He was only giving up 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, and he looks to be back in full force. He's only given up 2 walks in the 16 innings thus far, and Andrew Abbott had himself a really nice year last year, posting up a 2.87 ERA, but that said, fielding independent for him was darn near a point higher, as he was only getting about 8.1 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he was giving up a home run per 9, backed up by a lineup that is neither here nor there. Sal Stewart has looked really good to begin the season, but what are you going to be able to get out of some of these other young guys? Like Spencer Steer has been up and down throughout his career. Tyler Stevenson has not provided much. Brian Hayes seems to have regressed, and Eugenio Suarez 49 home runs last season, but never has been really a guy to be able to move the line. Flip side for the Miami Marlins, you're still dealing with a big injury to one of their main guys in Kyle Stowers, but still, you've had Xavier Edwards be able to hit for nearly a 400 to start the season. He does a great job in terms terms of moving the line. I expect a little bit more out of Roberto Hernandez. Connor Norby were off to slow starts to the season, but Otto Lopez was one of the more unlucky hitters in all baseball last year. He's hitting above a 300. Not a ton of power in this lineup, but Augustin Ramirez was able to spike 20 home runs last season. For the Marlins, they've been one of the best bullpens in baseball early on here in the season. Anthony Bender, Andrew Nardi, Calvin Fauché, all these guys are able to spy a sub-350 ERA. Pete Fairbanks is on the paternity list, so congratulations to him. But John King was a good pickup from the Cardinals. He posted up last year a sub-350 ERA. And then on the flip side of things, you do have a Reds bullpen that I just don't trust in their closer in Emilio Pagan. Pierce Johnson was a sub-350 ERA guy last year with the Atlanta Braves, but he's been a little bit shaky, like Tony Santillan, Brock and Roll Burke. But that said, I do think that Alcantara goes out there, gets the job done. Would like a 7.5 to the under, but if I had to play right now, there's just not enough 7.5s with good juice. So we'll be looking at that 7 over and willing to lay up to a minus 138 on the Marlins money line. 903, 904 on the betting board. You've got the San Diego Padres on the road against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Paul Skeens goes for the Buccos. Nick Pivetta is on the bump for the Padres, and the Padres do find themselves as a underdog here between plus 122 to a plus 130, minus 144 to a minus 156. That number on the Buccos, 6.5 is the total. Over is minus 115, under is minus 105, and I do believe we've gone just too low with this total. Did set my total at 7.1. Nick Pivetta last year was really good at home, but he did have his struggles away from home. You even saw that when he was with the Boston Red Sox. He would always give up a lot of home runs in a ballpark that wasn't necessarily pitcher friendly, and he was very much a beneficiary of pitching in San Diego last season, because you take a look at those home and road splits, 236 home ERA, giving up about 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. Away from home, 1.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings with about a 3.55 ERA. And for Paul Skeens, he had that rough first start of the season. That was not on him. O'Neal Cruz was playing some little league outfield out there, and then he bounced back in a strong way in his second start. He's still a guy that for his career is giving you about 10.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. Doesn't give up a lot of walks. And for the San Diego Padres, it's been a little bit up and down with the lineup thus far. Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., these guys are constants. These guys are going to give you over a 350 on base and 25 plus home runs. Ramon Laureano is okay in terms of moving the line. They pick up Nick Castellanos in the offseason, who's been relatively solid with the Padres thus far, but Xander Bogaerts has been a waste of money. Jackson Merrill has been a little bit up and down ever since his big rookie season. Jake Cronenworth isn't really doing a lot for you as well. Now for the Padres, number 1 last year in terms of bullpen ERA, but they are dealing with the injuries to Jason Adam along with Yuki Matsui. So Audrey Motohon, who's been a really good long guy, is going to be really having to fill the void here in the meantime. Jeremiah Estrada has been off to a rough start to the season. He's been a little bit up and down recently. Love Mason Miller at the closer spot, and it certainly is a little bit better than the Pirates bullpen, but Pirates bullpen is starting to come along for the ride as well. Justin Lawrence had a sub-2 ERA last season. Dennis Santana, sub-3 ERA last season. Isaac Madsen is able to give you some good innings. Not really a fan of Hunter Barco, and this team was dead last in the big leagues in terms of runs per game last season. They're looking much better this year. Ryan O'Hearn, between his time with the Orioles and also the Padres last year, over 350 on base with functional power. Jared Trollo's now on the injury list. Honestly, that's not a bad thing. Connor Griffin, he just got called up to the big leagues. He should be able to give this team some nice, shall we say, average. I don't know if he gives them a ton of pop right away. That might be coming in future years, but he certainly helps them out. And Brandon Lau, he has been getting loud. Spent a lot of time with the Tampa Bay Rays. Last year gave the team 31 home runs. He's already got 3 bombs and over at 350 on base to begin the season. So I do think that Skeens is going to be well supported here. So my money line price at a minus 158. I would rather take a chalkier money line here rather than the run line, even though you're getting like a plus 155 or so on that run line. But I do think it's going to be a lower scoring game, but 6.5 just a little bit too low. Like the over of 6.5, so I might total 7.1, and on the Pirates on the money line, we'll go up to a minus 157. 905, 906, we've got the Cardinals on the road against the Washington Nationals. Cade Cavalli is on the bump for Washington, and Matthew Liberatore is on the bump for the St. Louis Cardinals. Cardinals are in a rather pick'em game here. You're going to be finding them between about a minus 105 to a minus 110, between minus 106 to a minus 112 is that number on Washington. 7.5 is the total, over and under both at minus 110. So my total at 8.3. I do like the over. Both of these guys are relative pitcher contact guys. Matthew Liberatore was only getting about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings last season. Posted up a 4.21, 4.22 ERA. Was only giving up, though, about 1.1 home runs per 9 innings. He doesn't give up a ton of walks, so I do think that there's some upside there. But again, he's not going to get a lot of whips. And Cavalli last year at the big league level, 7.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, so he's not much of a swing and miss guy as well. 4.25 ERA with 1.3 home runs allowed per 9 innings. And for the Washington Nationals, last year. They were dead sinking last in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. PJ Poulin, I actually think is relatively solid in this bullpen, but Cionel Perez posted up well north of a 4 ERA last year. Clayton Beeter is not great. Cole Henry is a guy that I don't have a lot of faith in. And for the Nationals, I do think that they've got some relatively nice pieces in the lineup. James Wood has yet to really be able to hit this year, but he had 30-plus home runs last season. Dallin Lyle is a guy that has some upside. He's been hitting above a 250 to begin the season. CJ Abrams has already supplied the team with a trio of bombs. Does a nice job moving the line. And on the flip side for the Cardinals, JJ Weatherholt already has a walk-off hit to his credit. You've got a lot of young guys just across the board for this team, like Jose Tena for the Washington Nationals, who's been able to move the line. Flip side, Victor Scott has been able to do the same for the St. Louis Cardinals. Cardinals also picked up Ramon Urias in the offseason. I think that he's got some upside there. And then if Nolan Gorman can hit home runs, that's going to be big because he's never been great in terms of being able to get on base. But I still remember 2023, he was able to go off for 27 home runs. So certainly had some power. And for the Cardinals, they were in the upper half of the big leagues with regards to bullpen ERA last season. It's been shaky to start the season. We have seen likes of Riley O'Brien, Matt Savanson after good years last year have a little bit of a shaky start to the season. Jojo Romero was really good last season, and he's been rock solid here this far. So I do think that the Cardinals have a much better bullpen, and I do think that they get the job done where the bullpens will give up some runs. My total at an 8.3, like the over for the Cardinals, set them at a minus 121, so one to lay up to a minus 120 on that money line. 907, 908 on the card. The Arizona Diamondbacks are going to be on the road against the New York Mets. Freddie Peralta is on the bump for the Metropolitans, and Zach Allen looks to fill it up for the Snakes. As right now for Arizona, they are between a plus 129 to a plus 136 underdog, minus 150 to minus 160, that number on the Mets. Total is 7. The under is anywhere between minus 120 to minus 105, with the over that's anywhere between even money and minus 115, so a little bit all over the place. And with the Mets, I set their money line price at a minus 157. If you're looking to lay a run half, I needed at least a plus 150 to be able to dive in there. Right now, I'm seeing about a plus 140. I would rather stick with a chalk your money line at like a minus 150 rather than go for the run line, because I do think that's going to be a little bit of a lower scoring game. They had to move up the game time because it's going to be cooler out there in New York. But again, I do feel like this total has gone a little bit too low, especially with the fact that Zach Allen throughout his career has not been the same pitcher away from him rather than at home. And he was just rough all season last year. A 4.83 ERA, he was giving up 1.5 home runs, a 3.1 walks per 9 innings. Has looked a little bit better to start the year this year, but still, I do have to have a lot of question marks with this regard. And you just take a look at the career numbers. This is not just 1 year, but this is his entire career away from him. 3.24 home ERA, about a 3.95 ERA when he's away from him. And away from him, he does give up over 1.25 home runs per 9 innings. And for Freddie Peralta, I do think that he's doing for a little bit of regression after such a good year last year. Last year, Freddie Peralta was supplying a ERA of a 2.70, but a 3.64 fielding dependent. So had 3.4 walks per 9 innings. So that's a little bit of a concern. And he does go up against a Diamondbacks lineup that they were 4th in the big leagues in terms of run scoring last season. They're currently dealing with a little bit of a injury to Carlos Santana. Honestly, I don't think that that's the world's worst thing, as Jose Fernandez, a young 22-year-old, has a pair of homers. He's doing a great job moving the line. Nolan Arenado looks a little bit washed at this point, but Ketel Marte, 25-plus home runs, over 350 on base last season. He was rock solid. Gabriel Moreno, Geraldo Perdomo don't hit for a ton of power, but they do a nice job moving the line. Alec Thomas is able to get on base, and then Corbin Carroll last year, over 30 home runs, and he was able to supply about a 340 or so on base. And for the New York Mets, you know what Juan Soto is going to be able to bring to the table. Guy that always gives you 40-plus home runs. Last year, darn near 400 on base. So you know what you're going to be able to get with that regard. But what are you going to be able to get out of some of these other guys? Because they did pick up Marcus Semien in the offseason, who just never really found it with the Texas Rangers. But Luis Robert already has a walk-off homer to his credit. It looks like he's going to be doing a rock-solid job. It is looking like Juan Soto probably going to be out for this game. I believe he just hit the injured list as I do this, so I did have to factor that in as well. But even with him currently being out the fold, you do have someone like a Francisco Lindor is always good for 30 home runs. Sometimes it's a slow starter, though. Francisco Alvarez last year had a rough season, but he's already up to 3 bombs. So even with having Soto currently being out of the fold, you have to think that you're going to be seeing a little bit more Carson Benjay in the outfield and Tyrone Taylor. I do think that they have enough functional offense to get to a Diamondbacks bullpen that last year was in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of ERA, and it's not looking promising right now with AJ AJ Puck on the 60-day injured list. Jonathan the Wise Guy, I think, has some upside along Taylor Clark, but Juan Murillo has never really been trustworthy. Paul Sewald already has had a few rough outings as far this season. He looks a little bit washed, and for the Mets, they no longer have Edwin Diaz, but Luke Weaver was so good with the Yankees last year. Devin Williams starting to look like the Devin Williams that we saw with the Brewers prior to Pete Alonso hitting that big home run. Brooks Raley, Oscar Brazoban are capable of giving you a sub 350 ERA, so do think that the Mets get the job down here. Somebody told 7.8, even with Soto being out, so like the over, and for the Mets, willing to lay up to a minus 156 on that money line. 9-9, 9-10 on the card. It's the Phillies. They're going to be on the road against the San Francisco Giants. Robbie Ray says hit Pepe Ray to another start for the Giants, and Christopher Sanchez is on the bump for the Phils. Phillies do find themselves as road favorites here of anywhere between minus 150 to minus 156, plus 129 to a plus 135. That number on San Francisco 7 is the total, over and under, both at minus 110. Set a total of a 7.4. I do like the over with Christopher Sanchez. I think that he's going to be able to go out there and do his thing. He's become one of the most complete pitchers in all baseball. Last season, supplied the team with a 250 ERA with a 255 fielding dependent, and thus far this season, 11 and third innings. He's only given up one run, and it is a Giants lineup that is very much a struggling, but that's it for the Phillies. Outside of Yohan Duran, it is a bullpen that is a little bit suspect. Bryce Keller had a career year with the Cubs last season, but he's had his struggles. Jose Alvarado posted up north of 4 last season with his ERA. Just has not been the same guy ever since that drug suspension. Tanner Banks is a little bit shaky, and for the Phillies, they're coming back down from elevation, so have to wonder how the offense is going to be for them moving forward. Alec Bohm has had a miserable start to the year, hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. Bryce Harper has a pair of home runs, but he's not really getting on base. You've been able to get a trio of bombs out of Kyle Schwarber, but again, not really getting on base like what I've seen out of Justin Crawford and Brandon Marsh in terms of finding way on, but I mean, it's been a little bit suspect there. And then on the flip side for the San Francisco Giants, they have been one of the bottom teams in all baseball in terms of run creation, and Matt Chapman had himself a really bad week last week, not gonna lie, but that said, Luis Arias is typically good for hitting for about a 300. They need to get more of the outfield. Harrison Bader, Eloy Ramos, Jung-Ho Lee all entered in the series hitting less than a 220. I mean, with Ramos, 20 plus home runs each of the last 2 seasons, so you're going to need a little bit more there, and Rafael Devers just has not lived up to his contract yet for the team, and neither has Willy Adames. Adames last year, a 225 average, was able to supply 30 home runs, but so many of those came too little, too late, so that's a little bit of an issue. And for the Giants, they do have a bullpen that was last year 4th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. They did deal away some of those guys, and Jose Buto is currently on the injured list, so that hurts them. Ryan Walker did have about a 4 ERA last season, and Eric Miller, sub 2 ERA last season, so had a little bit of a shaky start to the season along with Keaton Wynn, but I do think that they're going to get a little bit more online here. For Robbie Ray, it was a tale of 2 seasons for him last year. Last year started off things really well in the first half of the campaign, and then post All-Star break, he was posting up an ERA closer to about a 5.45, but he's always been a better pitcher in terms of not allowing the deep ball in San Francisco. Last year, 0.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings at home compared to 1.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings away from home. Always has a propensity to give up about 4 walks per 9 innings, but I do think that this number has gone just a little bit too far, especially with the Phillies having to play out there on the West Coast. So my money line price at a plus 134, so plus 135 or better in on the Giants, and set a total of 7.4, so at the 7, I like the over. 9-11, 9-12, the Royals are going to be on the road against the Guardians, as Kevin Williams is on the bump for the Guardians, and you've got Noah Cameron on the bump for the Royals. The Royals find themselves in a rather pick'em game here. You're going to be finding this money line anywhere between minus 107 to minus 115 for the Guardians, and between about minus 103 to minus 108. That number on the Royals. 7 is the total. Over is between minus 110 to even money. The under is between minus 110 to a minus 120, and when it comes to Guardians, I set them at a minus 154. Like them on the money line. Royals were a bottom 8 team in terms of run creation last year, and I do think that they're going to be a little bit better this season, but still, you have to have some question marks with regards to what these guys are going to be able to bring to the table, because you know what you're getting out of Bobby Witt Jr. over at 350 on base. He'll hit for 25 plus home runs. Jonathan India did go deep yesterday, but he has had his struggles ever since the Royals picked him up. Kyle Isbell is hitting above a 400 right now. I don't think that that's going to be long lasting, but hey, he's gotten off to a nice start to the season. Lane Thomas, he's been pretty miserable for the team thus far, but Miguel Garcia is moving the line. Salvador Perez does look a little bit washed, and Vinny Pasquantino not really getting on base right now. Did have 30 home runs last season, and for the Guardians, I think that this lineup is going to be a little bit better than it was in the past. Now, they still have the likes of CJ Kayfis, Daniel Schneemann, Bo Naylor, Brian Rocchio, Gabriel Urias, these guys that hit a 230 or lower with not a lot of pop, but Cal Manzardo, 25 plus home runs last year. Chase Salauter, already 5 home runs, and is hitting above a 275 for the team. Stephen Kwan does a good job at at the top. Jose Ramirez has had a little bit of a shaky start to the season, but you know that he's going to be able to iron that out. And Gavin Williams, he's coming off of 7 scoreless innings with 10 punch-outs on the road against the LA Dodgers. If that's not impressive, I don't know what is. I don't know if he's going to do that every time, but still, 3.06 ERA last season, albeit the fielding dependent was closer to 4 as he was giving up over 4 walks per 9 innings, but 9.3 strikeouts, 1.2 home runs allowed per 9 innings. That's rock solid. And Noah Cameron is doing for regression. A career 2.95 ERA in his 25 MLB starts between 2025 and 26, but a 4.09 fielding dependent, only getting about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He does give up 2.8 walks per 9, and for the Guardians, I do believe that they've got a little bit of a better bullpen here. Tim Aaron has actually had a really nice start to the season. They've needed it because Hunter Gaddis is currently on the injured list, but Eric Zabrowski is able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Cade Smith has been shaky to start the season, but he's always been pretty reliable in this bullpen. And then for the Kansas City Royals, you've got Carlos Estevez currently on the injured list. Now, Lucas Erceg is able to be a really nice, good closer. Matt Strom was posting up a sub-350 ERA with the Phillies last few seasons. Daniel Lynch is a nice long guy, but you really don't have as many one-inning guys. Nick Mears is probably who you're going to be looking to there, so do think that Gavin Williams goes out there, dominates this game, and I do think that this total is too low. So my total is 7.9, like the over. And for the Guardians, I'm willing to lay up to a minus 153 on that money line. 9:13, 9:14 on the card. The Athletics are on the road against the Yankees as Cam Schlittler is on the bump for the Yankees, and you got Aaron Savali going for the A's, and the Athletics who find themselves as a pretty good size underdog here of anywhere between plus 164 to a plus 175, minus 196 to a minus 205. That number on the Yankees. 8.5 is the total. Unders between minus 110 to a minus 120. Overs between even and minus 110. If you're looking to lay a run half with the Yankees, find that run line at about a plus 105, seeing as good as a plus 115 out there, and I was willing to go up to a minus 125, so I'm going to be willing to lay the Yankees on the run line. Cam Schlittler has just been so impressive in his small sample size here at the big league level. He's getting over 10 strikeouts per 9 innings throughout his career, 2.96 ERA with 10.4 strikeouts per 9 innings last season, 11 and 2/3 shutout innings to begin the season this year. And for Aaron Savali, wasn't great last year, 4.85 ERA. He was with 3 different teams, giving up 1.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings. The walks per 9 rate was hovering right around about 3 as well. He's not a guy that's going to necessarily knock your socks off, and let's call it what it is. This is an Athletics bullpen that is not necessarily great. Justin Sterner provided about a 4 ERA last season along with Elvis Alvarado, but you have a tough time trusting a JT Ginn and Juice as a long guy. Scott Barlow looks completely washed, and for the Athletics, they're averaging over 7 runs per game at home this far this season, fewer than 3 runs per game away from home, so that's a little bit of an issue. You've had Nick Kurtz get off to a really shaky start to the season, hitting a $148, entering into yesterday with 0 home runs. Shea Langolaris has been great, 5 home runs to begin the season, 5 out of the team's first 10 home runs to begin the season. Tyler Soderstrom is doing an okay job moving line, but after that really good start to the home run ball last season, that started to dry up a little bit towards the back half of the season. Jeff McNeil has not really done a lot coming over from the Mets. I think that there's some upside there, and Jacob Wilson does not draw any walks, but does a nice job finding a way to move the line, get on base. But now they take on a New York Yankees team that, even though they no longer have Luke Weaver in that bullpen, I still think that they're one of the better bullpens they're going to find in all baseball. Picking up Camilo Duvall along with David Benner were really nice at the trade deadline last season, and additionally, you've got a guy in Brent Hedrick who was able to spy a sub-325 ERA last season. I like that upside, and for the Yankees, this is a team that gets to be a little bit all or nothing from time to time, but I feel like adding Cody Bellinger, the fact that he's giving you over a 4 base, that's a nice stabilizer. You've gotten great production out of Mr. Ben Rice thus far, 3 home runs in the first 8 games that he played in this year, hitting above a 300, so love to see that. Giancarlo Stanton's also hitting for a lot of average, just 1 home run in the first 8 games that he played in, but hitting over a 350, you'll take that. You have to figure that Trent Grisham, Chaz Chisholm, they're going to find a way to move the line a little bit more. They're dealing with an injury to Anthony Volpe. That's honestly not a bad thing for this team, so do think that the Yankees go out there, dominate this game, and I think that Schlittler really helps you out to the under. So my total 7.8, like the under, and the Yankees on the run line. 9:15, 9:16 on the card. It's the Baltimore Orioles on the road against the Chicago White Sox. Trevor Rogers is in the neighborhood for the Orioles, and Shane Smith goes for the White Sox. The Southsiders who find themselves as a home underdog here, as you're going to be getting with them between plus 113 to a plus 121, between minus 132 to minus 138. That number on Baltimore, 7 is the total. Unders between minus 110 to a minus 115. Overs between minus 105 to a minus 110, and I do like the Orioles, set them at a minus 144 on the money line. Now, I do think that Rodgers is going to be doing for a little bit of regression. He has been absolutely amazing since the beginning of the 2025 season. You look at what he's done since the beginning of 2025, 176 ERA, 0.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings. He gets like 8 to 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Not a bad strikeout pitcher, but not an amazing strikeout pitcher, but the 287 fielding independent shows that he's doing for a little bit of regression. Shane Smith is a little bit wild wild, 3.7 walks per 9 innings since making his MLB debut in 2025, 4.29 ERA, and he's backed up by a bullpen that entered into the series with a 6.31 ERA. Like, when you have Sir Anthony Dominguez as your closer, that's just a place where you don't want to be. I mean, Grant Taylor has been doing a solid job as an opener for this team, but Sean Newcomb is not a guy that I trust in. Jordan Hicks looks a little bit washed, and for the White Sox, this is a team that does a nice job in terms of not striking out. Not a ton of power. You do have Andrew Benintendi, who was able to supply over 20 home runs last season along Colson Montgomery. Manitaka Murakami already has 4 home runs, so he's been able to do a nice job in terms of being able to provide a little bit of wall up, and then you bring in Austin this Hayes kid. I think that he's got a little bit of upside as well, but I mean, again, you got a lot of contact guys, and they're not necessarily amazing contact guys, so that's a little bit of an issue, and an issue for the Baltimore Orioles is that they are banged up once again. Jordan Westberg, Jackson Alday, both of these guys are currently out of the fold. Pete Alonso just 1 home run through the first 8 or 9 games of the season, and Samuel Basayo has shown promise, and he's shown upside, but he just has not been able to put it together. He's been very inconsistent at the plate. Taylor Ward, last year with the Angels, he was an all-or-nothing hitter, going for 36 home runs and only about a 228 average, hitting above a 300 thus far with 0 home runs through his first 8 or 9 games of the season, so has actually been welcome for the team. The fact that he moves the line, and then Adley Rutschman has looked much better this year as well. When it comes to the bullpen of the Orioles, Ryan Helsley is looking much better than he was with the New York Mets towards back half of the season, but still have to have your question marks there. Yadier Cano was such a good reliever a few seasons ago, but he's went down the toilet bowl. I do like Uncle Rico Garcia, though. He's pretty rock solid and still better than what the White Sox are throwing out there as well, and I do think that for the Orioles, they are going to be able to do a solid job getting to Shane Smith here. Again, I do think that Rogers is doing for a little bit of regression, but set my money line price here at a minus 144, so I'm going to be willing to lay the money line here of the Orioles. Don't want the run line in. I like the over. Set my total at 8.1. 917, 918 on the card. It is the Tigers. They're on the road against the Minnesota Twins. Taj Junkel, Milton Bradley is on the bump for the Twins, and Drake Skubal is on the bump for the Detroit Tigers. Tigers do find themselves as a massive favorite here, minus 160 to minus 172, between plus 140 to plus 150. Then around Minnesota, 6.5 is the total. Over is minus 120. The under is even. I did set a total here of at 7.8. I do like the over. Now, I think that Tariq Skubal is going to be able to go out there and do his business, and he's been able to do so the last few seasons. Back-to-back Cy Young Award winner, who, I mean, he has given up 1 run in 13 innings this far this season, 2.21 ERA last season. It's pretty cold out there in Minnesota. Strikeout to walk ratio last year north of a 7. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it that he's going to be able to get the job done. Taj Bradley, ever since he has gotten to the state of Minnesota, a 5.18 ERA with a fielding independent, more around about a 4.06. They'll probably do him for a little bit of positivity, but 1.3 home runs, 3.5 walks per 9 innings, does get about 9.5 strikeouts per 9, but it's a Tigers lineup that is in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of run creation. You've got really good balance just up and down the boulevard with this Detroit Tigers lineup, as Kevin McGonigal is right now hitting above a 275. You've got a guy in Parker Meadows who's moving the line, then likes of a Spencer Torkelson, along with Riley Green, were able to hit for 30 plus home runs last season. Gleyber Torres does a solid job, give you functional power. He finds way on base. Cole Keith is not necessarily a super masher, but I mean, he was able to give you a 333 on base last season, so like the overall balance there. And for the Minnesota Twins, the offense has been relatively solid thus far, even though they are a little bit all or nothing. Someone like Matt Wallner last year was able to give the team 20 plus homers, but was hitting less than a 225. Same goes for Cody Clements, but you got Byron Buxton, Royce Lewis currently healthy, which that's a big thing, and Buxton's gotten off to a rough start to the season. I have to feel like he's going to be able to pick it up a little bit. Victor Carantini, I thought, was a nice add. He's able to give you a little bit of pop at the catcher spot. And Lucas Shaw, he was hitting for like a 300 last year in his small sample size, so he should be one of those guys that finds a way to be able to get on base. Both of these bullpens, I do have a little bit of question mark with, though for the Twins, and the likes of a Eric Orze, he was able to give it sub 350 ERA with the Rays last season. Cody Funderburg, he was able to give you sub 4 ERA. Taylor Rogers up there in years, but he's able to get the job done. And for Detroit, it's been a bit of a shaky start to the season for the bullpen, but the likes of Tyler Holden, Brent Herter, Will Vest, they were all able to give you a sub 355 ERA last season. I like the pickup of Kyle Finnegan. Do not like the pickup of Kenley Jansen. Always have my question marks there, but for the Tigers, I do think that they're going to be able to go out there, have themselves a nice performance overall, both at the plate and with Tariq Skubal starting. So I did set my run line price here of the Tigers and more around a minus 123. I'm seeing plus money at about a plus 108, plus 110. Do like the Tigers here on the run line, and I do like that 6.5 to the over. over. 919-920, it's the Seattle Mariners on the road against the Walker, Texas Rangers. Nathan Eovaldi is on the bump for Texas, and George Kirby goes for Seattle. Seattle is between a -115 to a -126 favor, -102 to +106, and number on the Rangers with 7.5 the total, over and under between -105 to a -115, made a total of an 8.1, so I do like the over with George Kirby. He's just always had more issues when he's been away from home rather than at home. That extended to last season as well, where last season he was probably a little bit unlucky, as for Kirby, 4.21 ERA, but a 3.37 fielding dependent, 9.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, 1.1 home runs per 9, but I mean, this is overall career numbers. 3.10 ERA with 0.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings at home, 4.08 ERA, 1.2 home runs allowed per 9 innings away from home. And Nathan Eovaldi has had a rough start to the season, 11 runs allowed in 8 2/3 innings. Last year he was masterful, 1.73 ERA, 0.7 home runs, 1.5 walks per 9 innings. Don't think he quite gets back to last season, but still I do think that there's improvement coming here, and he's backed up by a relatively solid bullpen. Robert Garcia, Chris Martin are able to supply a sub-350 ERA. Jacob Latz is a really good long guy. Jacob Junis, Shalen Beeks, these guys aren't going to wow you with their ERAs like Cole Winn, who was able to give you a sub-2 ERA last season, but I mean, these are veterans that are able to give you some relatively good innings. Like Beeks had like a 3.77 as a long guy last season, and for the Texas Rangers, I do think that the offense is going to be able to steadily improve. Wyatt Langford, after a little bit of a rough start to the season, I think that he picks it up. Brandon Nimmo's doing a great job reaching base. He's hitting well above a 3.25 right now. Corey Seager, 3+ home runs to begin the season. He's fully healthy, and Jake Berger has been able to both move the line and give you some bombs. Meanwhile, for the Seattle Mariners, it's been a little bit rough for them. Cal Raleigh finally got his first home run of the season yesterday. Josh Naylor, Julio Rodriguez, both hitting below a 175. Luke Raley is actually giving you 3 home runs. Cole Young has been relatively solid as well. So I do think that both of these offenses are going to start to pick it up a little bit. And for the Seattle Mariners, this is a team that has a really nice 8th and 9th inning duo in Matt Brash and Andres Munoz. Guy like his Gabe Spire last year was able to give you sub-3 ERA, like Edward Bizardo in the bullpen, but now deal with Carlos Vargas being out of the lineup. That's a little bit of an issue, and Kirby just, again, has not been the same pitcher away from home. So did set my line at a -132 with Rangers being favored. I like the Rangers on the money line, and the over, semi-total at 8.1. 9:21, 9:22 on the card. The Cubs are going to be on the road against the Rays as Drew Rasmussen goes for the Rays, and Javier Assad is on the bump for the Cubs. The Cubs are an underdog of between +110 to a +118, between -126 to -138 is that number on the Rays. 7.5 is the total. Over is between -110 to a -115. Under is between -105 to a -110. And for the Rays, I set them at a -133. So I'm going to be willing to lay up to a -132 on the money line. Drew Rasmussen is not a guy that's going to go out there and light up the radar gun or anything like that, but he's just a nice, steady Eddie pitcher that really does a great job in terms of not beating himself. Last year, 1.1 home runs, 2.2 walks allowed per 9 innings with a 2.76 ERA. Has given up just 2 runs that are earned, 3 runs in total here in his first 2 starts of the season this year. So he's once again looking pretty solid. Now for the Rays, they're right now in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. When you're having Griffin Jacks go out there late in games, that is not a place where you want to be. I like Hunter Biggie in the bullpen, but I mean, he's pretty much a lone trustworthy guy for the team. Ian Seymour, I believe, should be a starter. They're throwing him in long relief, and they did so yesterday, so that's been a bit of an issue. Cole Sulzer has had a little bit of a rough go of it as well. And then for the Chicago Cubs, they lose so much of that bullpen from a season ago. Now you're relying upon Hobie Milner, Phil Matone. These guys just look a little bit long in the tooth. Caleb Theobar had a career of the year last year. He's 37+ years old. I don't know if he's going to be able to maintain. Hunter Harvey is a little bit up and down his health injury over the last few seasons. And for the Cubs last year, they got off to a really nice start with their offense, and then it waned towards the back half of the season. Pico Armstrong is really given no power whatsoever, but he's starting to move the line a little bit more, though he's had a rough last week or so of the regular season here in 2026. Nico Horner has been able to hit for darn near a 300. Michael Busch, he's having himself a relatively rough season after last year, 350+ on base, 25+ home runs, like what Miguel Amaya is able to bring to the table, and they need him because Moises Ballesteros has not been great. And Ian Happ, not hitting for average, but he's got 4 home runs thus far this season. And for the Rays, they were in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of run creation last year, and I don't expect their offense to be as great at home as it was a season ago, because last year was Steinbrenner Stadium. Now they're back in the Trop. But that said, Jonathan Aranda already with 3 home runs after he hit for above a 300 last season. Yandy Diaz, he last year was able to fly over a 375 on base and 25+ home runs. He's off to a nice start to the season already. Chandler Simpson, one of the best base stealers in all of baseball, he's hitting well above a 300. Nick Fortes has been able to help out at the catcher spot. They pick up Ben Williamson, who was pretty solid with the Seattle Mariners in terms of moving line. Junior Caminero, 44+ home runs last season. So you've got a lot of guys that I think can go out there and just really rip the cover off the ball. And for Javier Assad, he's a guy that pitches to quite a bit of contact, and his command is not even the world's greatest either. You take a look at Javier Assad last season, 373 ERA, but a 464 fielding dependent, 3.9 walks, and 7.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. It feels like a little bit of a recipe for disaster. So did some I told 7.8. I do think that the Rays bullpen is a little bit shaky, but I think that they're good enough to get the job done. One to lay up to minus 132 on that Rays money line, and do like the over 923, 924. It's the Brewers on the road against the Red Sox, as you've got Jacob Mizorowski, the Miz Kid, on the bump for the Brewers, and Garrett Crochet goes for Boston. Boston is between a minus 145 to a minus 162 favorite, plus 130 to plus 140. That number on the Brewers. 7 is the total. Under is minus 115. Over is minus 105. Do like the over. I set my total at an 8.2. For Mizorowski, was he a little bit unlucky with regards to his ERA last season? Yes, because he had a fielding dependent that was much lower than his ERA. But that said, for Jacob Mizorowski, he does have a little bit of a walks issue. Was giving out about 4.1 to 4.2 walks per 9 innings last year. Well, obviously having that great swing and miss stuff, 11.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, but you have to fear that he's going to knock himself out of this start early. And for the Brewers, they're going to need a little bit more length because Brandon Woodruff had a surprisingly rough start in his go-around on Monday. For the Brewers, they do have some of the best bullpen depth that you're going to find in all baseball, though Jared Koenig did hit the injured list. You've got the likes of a Grant Anderson who's able to give multiple innings. He, Abner Uribe, Aaron Ashby, Trevor McGill, all sub 350 ERAs last season. And Anel Zerpa picking him up from the Royals, I thought was a nice ad, but now they're dealing with injuries in their lineup to Andrew Vaughn and Jackson Chourio as well. Joey Ortiz does a good job moving the line. David Hamilton has been a little bit up and down in recent years, former Boston Red Sox, but he's a guy that's able to reach base. He had a nice year in 2024, and it looks like he might be able to really flourish in this lineup. And then the likes of Sal Fried, like Bryce Terang, they're good in terms of stealing bases, giving you over 330 on base. Christian Yelich, William Contreras, your main two guys in the lineup that are able to give you 20-plus home runs. And then for the Boston Red Sox, Weiler Abreu has been wilding out, 3-plus home runs. He's hitting above a 400 right now, so love to see that. Trevor Story was able to go out for a nice game yesterday after he had a miserable start to the season. As Caleb Durbin, the former Brewer, has been hitting below 200 as well, but Roman Anthony does a nice job in terms of moving the line. Wilson Contreras is yet to get it going with regards to batting average and power, but he's drawing a lot of walks, so he's finding a way on base. And for the Red Sox last year, they were a top 5 team in terms of their bullpen ERA, as well as you've got Garrett Woodlock now off of paternity leave. He, Danny Kalu, Aroldis Chapman all had a sub 325 ERA last year, and Chapman just so masterful at the closer spot. Greg Weissert is pretty solid, and Garrett Crochet, you know what you're going to be able to get out of him. Last year was supplying about a 250 ERA, getting over 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, really limits the walks, limits the deep ball, and I do think that he's going to be able to help the Red Sox get to victory in this one. Set my money line price at a minus 157. Don't want the run line, but do want the money line here, and I do like the over. Set my total at an 8.2. 925, 926. The Dodgers are going to be on the road against the Blue Jays, as you've got Kevin Gausman on the bump for the Jays, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto is on the bump for the Dodgers. Dodgers do find themselves as favorites here, anywhere between minus 150 to minus 160, plus 129 to plus 140. That number on the Blue Jays single size plus 145 as well. 7.5 is the total. Over is minus 115 to minus 120. Under is between even and minus 105 for the Blue Jays. If we can get to a plus 146, I'm going to take a shot on them on the money line right now, seeing plus 145. So when it's all said and done, I do think that we're going to be able to get there. Or if you're able to get a minus 125 or better with getting a run half, I'd be looking there as well. So in some form or capacity, going to end up being on the Toronto Blue Jays. It's just all about whether or not that's going to be money line or run line. As for Yoshinobu Yamamoto, we saw what he was able to do out there in the country of Canada last year in the World Series. He was so masterful, 249 ERA last season with over 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, only giving up about 0.8 home runs per 9 innings, and actually had a better road ERA than he did a home ERA. But I do think that Kevin Gausman is able to go out there, give you a presentable start. Maybe he's not getting as many swings and misses now as he has in the past, but still, coming off of a relatively solid 2025 campaign, flourished in the postseason. He had a 3.59 ERA, but a 3.41 fielding dependent, was giving up just 1 home run and 8.8 strikeouts per 9 innings a season going. For the Blue Jays, it's been a little bit touch and go for them. The lineup has had a rough go of it here over the last few days. Flagler Jr. just 1 home run in the first 10 games to start the season, but you know that he's going to be able to get online. You've had Davis Schneider be able to find a way on base. George Springer has been able to give you 3 home runs, but he, Dalton Varsho, along with a few others, just have not been able to pick it up. Nathan Lukes, who was so good last season, he's had a rough go of it, but Andres Jimenez has been able to do a nice job. They're dealing with the injury to, don't call his name, Alejandro Kirk, so that's been hurting them a little bit as well. And then For the Dodgers, this is the best lineup that money can buy. Teoscar Hernandez is already up to a pair of homers. He's moving the line. You've got Shohei Ohtani, who went deep yesterday. He's back on that 40-plus home run trajectory. Freddie Freeman has already went deep. They're without Mookie Betts, but it doesn't matter because you'll just have Alex Freeland be able to give you a home run. He had one of those last week. Dalton Rushing has actually been hitting really well at the catcher spot. Andy Paz hitting above a 400. So list goes on. And then for the Dodgers, it is a bullpen that you can trust in my opinion. Tanner Scott had a rough year last year, but 2 years ago, he's one of the better relievers in all baseball. Jack Dreyer, Alex Vesey had sub-3 ERAs last season. You pick up Edwin Diaz, but I do think that for the Blue Jays, they are going to get a little bit more online with their bats. It's been less than savory really ever since they went to Chicago over the weekend, but did semi-total at some point 8. I do think that they find a way to be able to get into this bullpen a little bit, so like the over, and with the Blue Jays, plus 146 or better, looking at that money line. 927, 928, it's the Astros on the road against the Rockies. Kyle Freeland is on the bump for the Rockies, and Mike Burrows is on the bump for the Astros, and Astros do find themselves as a good-sized favorite here, anywhere between minus 180 to minus 184, plus 152 to plus 162. That number on Colorado, 10.5 is the total, over and under, both at minus 110, and at a plus 166 or better, I'd be willing to take a shot on the Rockies on the money line. Right now, to lay a run half with the Astros, you're getting that between minus 113 to a minus 120, and I would be willing to lay that minus 113 run line, set mine at a minus 117, so I do land on the Astros run line just because minus 180 plus is a little bit chalky on the money line. And for Mike Burrows, he was respectable last year with the Pirates. I'm not going to say that he was amazing, but I knew he was flying about a 394 ERA, 4 fielding dependent, 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. Did give up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, but I mean, still, for really his first big league season at the big show, I knew he was able to do an okay job. And then for Kyle Freeland, he's been a little bit unlucky, but he just doesn't cause for any swing and miss. Last year, 6.9 strikeouts per 9 innings and a 498 ERA compared to a 418 fielding dependent. And he doesn't know how to pitch out there in elevation because he was born and raised in Denver, but it's just never really been able to come together for him. Now, with the Colorado Rockies, this is a relatively young lineup that has some guys I like a TJ Romfield. He's been able to hit above a 300 thus far this season with a little bit of pop. Mickey Moniak last year, he had an on-base percentage that was over 80 points better when he was at home rather than away from home. Brenton Doyle might have been the king of splits last year because with the Rockies, they typically do have an on-base percentage just across the board about 80 points better at home rather than away from home. But when it came to Doyle at home, he was giving you about a 341 on base. Away from home, that was down to a 209, hit a $162 away from home compared to 306 at home. So, I mean, that's absolutely massive right there. And then Hunter Goodman, 25 plus home runs last season. And for the Astros, the lineup has looked plenty good thus far. Jose Altuve, Yordan Alvarez, both hitting well above a 300 with some good power. Jeremy Pena is not really hitting the deep ball, but he and Cam Smith both hitting above a 250. Jake Myers at the bottom of the lineup is leaving something to be desired, but Joey Luperfido's moving the line. With having Christian Walker looking much better this year, that's big, but it's an Astros bullpen that's also dealing with a lot of injuries right now. Bennett Sosa, Josh Hader on the injured list. Now you've got the Bryants, Brian King, Brian Ray, and Steven Okert. These three guys were able to supply a sub-350 ERA last season, and Aniel De Los Santos is now off the injured list. That helps. AJ Blueball has been a relatively good long guy, but still you have some question marks out there. And for the Rockies, this is actually a stunningly not bad bullpen. Antonio Senzatella is no longer a starter. They moved him to the bullpen, and he hasn't been absolutely awful for the team, so that's good. Victor Vodnik, a sub-4 ERA last year. Jaden Hill, a sub-350 ERA. You're able to get some good innings as well as someone like a Jimmy Harrigan, who they're trusting in bigger spots as well. So I do think that for the Rockies, they're actually going to be able to do an okay job here, but again, at Coors Field, I do think that this is going to be a relative slugfest. I did semi total at a 10.8. I like the 10 after the over, and for the Astros, willing to lay up to a minus 116 on that run line, and wrap things up with 929, 930. It's the Braves on the road against the Angels. You say Kikuchi, I say he's starting for the Angels, and Ronaldo Lopez is on the bump for the Braves. The Braves are between minus 132 to minus 143 favorites, between plus 112 to plus 122. That number on the Halos, 8.5 is the total, over is minus 120, and the under is even. Did semi-total at 8.7, so I do like the over. Yusei Kikuchi got off to such a nice start to the season last year, and then he posted up a north of 5 ERA after the All-Star break. I do think that he's going to be somewhere between A and B this season. Last year, 3.99 ERA, 4.23 fielding dependent. The big thing is walks. He gave up 3.7 walks per 9 innings last year through 9 2/3 innings thus far this season. He's already given up 5 walks. He needs to work on the command. Meanwhile, for Ronaldo Lopez, pretty much miss all of last season after that masterful 2024 campaign where he had a 1.99 ERA. I don't think we're going to see that out of him, but still, 2 runs allowed for his first 2 starts of the season thus far. Love to be able to see that. And for the Atlanta Braves, this is a pretty solid bullpen as well. They pick up Robert Suarez from the San Diego Padres, who is a great closer for them. Tyler Kinley, since they picked him up from the Rockies, has had a sub-250 ERA with the Atlanta Braves. Dylan Lee is presentable. Raciel Iglesias had a rough year last year, so they need to get him going. But when it comes to this lineup, I don't know if they're going to get back to 2023 form when they were averaging 5.75 runs per game, but still, Ozzie Albies has been able to give you a relatively nice start to the season. Entered into yesterday, hitting a 3-iron with a pair of bombs. Jake Baldwin has really been able to go off 3+ home runs. He's doing a good job moving line. Matt Olson has been hitting darn near a 300. He's got a pair of home runs, so it does feel like these guys are falling into place. And Ronald Acuna Jr. has had a little bit of a rough start to the season. You know that he's going to be able to get going. Meanwhile, for the Angels, all or nothing team last year, and they do lose Taylor Ward in the offseason. Last year, they were 4th in home runs on a per at-bat basis, and they were also a bottom 5 team in terms of on-base percentage. Mike Trout is right now dealing with a little bit of an injury, so that hurts him. Joe Adele set fire to the rain with robbing 3 home runs over the weekend, but he also was only able to give you 293 on base last year, though he was able to supply 37 home runs as well. So again, one of those all or nothing guys. Zach Neto, Nolan Schunalt, these are more of the guys that are able to move the line and still give you some functional power. Josh Lowe, I actually thought was a good pickup in the offseason, just has not had a nice start to the season. And the Angels overall have not been terrible with their bullpen. Brent Suter, Drew Pomeranz, these are suitable veterans, but I do fear that they might be getting a little bit long in the tooth. Jordan Romano was just absolutely terrible last year. He's looked a little bit better thus far, but I need to see it to believe it, because last 2 seasons posted up over a 6.50 ERA. In the 2 bullpens in the Blue Jays and the Phillies that he was a part of, Ryan Seferian is on to see the answer as well. So I do think that the Braves do a nice job getting to Kikuchi and getting to that bullpen. Did set my money line price at a -139, so I am going to be willing to lay up to a -138 with the Braves, and I do like the over, so I might total at an 8.7, and that'll wrap things up for the Tuesday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. Big thanks to Dylan Rockford of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, do have 1 or 2 ways to offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GUnit_D1. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Coming at you guys every single day with picks and analysis on every single game, every single day. So I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much.